Good morning. This is Shakespeare's Sonnet 32. If thou survive my well-contented day, when natural death my bones with dust shall cover, and shalt by fortune once more resurvey these poor rude lines of thy deceased lover, compare them with the bettering of the time, and though they be outstripped by every pen, reserve them for my love, not for their rhyme, exceeded by the height of happier men. O then vouchsafe me but this loving thought. Had my friend's muse grown with this growing age, a dearer birth than this his love had brought, to march in ranks of better equipage. But since he died, and poets better prove, theirs for their style I'll read, his for his love. Shakespeare's Sonnet 32 is part of the Fair Youth sequence of sonnets, in which the speaker expresses his love, either platonic or romantic, for a youth or a young man. Sonnet 32 is a series of requests from the speaker for the young man, based on a conditional event. The speaker discusses a future in which it is likely that the youth outlives the speaker. He refers to himself as the deceased lover, emphasizing the age difference between the youth and the speaker. The tone of the sonnet is very melancholy, as the speaker acknowledges his own mortality and his shortcomings. Beginning in line 3, the speaker utilizes self-deprecation in order to acknowledge that, well, when he dies, there may be much better poetry produced as time changes and passes. He asks for the youth to remember his poetry, if not for his skill, as better poetry has been produced, but for his love, the love he put into his poems and the love he shared for the youth. He also asks the youth to recognize that had the speaker lived longer and seen the changing or bettering of the times, he may have been comparable to the better poets of the time. But since he died, that scenario does not occur, and therefore better poetry is produced. He concludes by restating the importance of love in his poetry, should his skill not measure up. In line 1, the speaker uses a conditional scenario. If the youth outlives the speaker, then the rest of the sonnet follows. It is very likely that if the youth lives longer and sees other poetry, better poems will come. This scenario allows the speaker to come off as humble for acknowledging his shortcomings and endearing for his emphasis on love. However, there is another possible interpretation of the sonnet. The other interpretation is that the conditional continues throughout the whole sonnet. In this case, it is possible that better poetry will be produced, but it is not definite. In that case, not only is it not definite that the youth will outlive the speaker as a conditional event, but it is also possible that the speaker's poems will be the best poems ever produced. This change in meaning changes the tone of the poem. Rather than the speaker seeming humble and sad about his own mortality, he comes off as smug, meaning he knows the true extent and the far-reaching ability his poems will have in the future and how long they will live on. These two different interpretations cause vastly different understandings of the sonnet. However, Sonnet 32 is fully dependent on the intentions of the speaker. So only the speaker truly knows what the meaning of the poem is. If thou survive my well-contented day, when natural death my bones with dust shall cover, and shalt by fortune once more resurvey these poor rude lines of thy deceased lover, compare them with the bettering of the time, and though they be outstripped by every pen, reserve them for my love, not for their rhyme, exceeded by the height of happier men. O then vouchsafe me but this loving thought. Had my friend's muse grown with this growing age, a dearer birth than this his love had brought, to march in ranks of better equipage. But since he died, and poets better prove, theirs for their style I'll read, his for his love. Thank you.